those mushrooms that exist in the sky, in the atmosphere, in the stratosphere, in whatever, will be there. They'll be proud. They'll be tall. They will be fat and big and meaty. But then, after a while, they'll rot. Worms will be on them. Dirt will be on them. All kinds of things will be on these mushrooms. They won't be so good anymore. Because they don't grow in the sky. Certainly not on a cloudy day. And certainly on May 31st, when they will be very, very prominent in the sky. And then they'll rot away. You know what those mushrooms represent? Outdated beliefs, thoughts, feelings, all these things that we've repressed and not looked at, and thought to ourselves, this works. This full moon in Sagittarius coming up, which is a blue moon, on May 31st is going to be having us look at where things have not worked anymore. Where things have failed, where things have gone by the wayside, where things have really, really become, too hot to handle, in a way, with what is going on. So, that's what it can come down to. Is that we were so focused on holding these beliefs in ourselves that are fixed, that we need to change, that we need to release in order to become more open-minded, in order to become more whole, in order to become more curious to the day-to-day through a Gemini sun of where this can thrive. This is part 1 of the full moon in Sagittarius videos. Part 2 will be coming tomorrow. Where I will be discussing the full moon in Sagittarius for all 12 signs, and what all 12 signs need to experience, what they need to experience. What they will experience. And, really what they need to know, what they need to, understand and learn about, and, how they can grow through this lunation. That's what I'll be talking about tomorrow. But today is the collective overview. This particular full moon is happening exactly at 3:47 a.m. Central Time, 4:47 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Adjust for your time zone. It occurs at 9 degrees and 56 minutes. 56 minutes of Gemini and Sagittarius. And this full moon is aspecting Saturn. I'm going to get into that later. The sun is sextile Saturn. The moon is trine Saturn at 12 degrees of Aries. And the sun and moon are at 9 degrees of Sagittarius. 9 degrees of Sagittarius, like in the degree theory, 9 degrees of Sagittarius represents travel, expansion, freedom, philosophy, all these 9th house arenas of life. That's what it represents in the belonged style of life. So, we're going to delve into these themes of the full moon in Sagittarius and these energetic themes, and then get into the aspects going on here. So the sun and moon are always opposite at a full moon. The sun and moon are always 180 degrees apart from each other going on here. And so when the sun and moon are opposite, it creates this tension between what we want consciously and what we want unconsciously, and our own external projections and internal reflections get really, really, looked at, and there's a challenge, there's a push-pull between these two things, and those struggles with this. There's really, really deep struggles with those kind of things. And so, with the sun and moon, they are opposite. This creates that oppositions are difficult aspects where we're being pulled into different directions at once. There's a push and pull, and we have to balance out Gemini and Sagittarius. We can't go either or. It's not either or when it comes to polarities. That, just like, the nodes of the moon. You can't go completely to the north node, completely to the south node. The evolved version is integrating both nodes together. So you're just like the node, you're meant to look at, both signs, both polarities equally. And really, really delve into those signs individually with what they really have to offer us with their lessons. So, really, really looking at with this full moon, what we are opening up to on a heart and soul level. What is opening up for us? What are we expanding into? Sagittarius is, after all, about expansion. It's about expanding our horizons. Getting out of the day-to-day, mundane reality. Getting out of the little details of all the people that we talk to. All the conversations we have. All the little messages that we send to and fro to our friends and to our family members and to whoever we interact with in our day-to-day life. It's about growing. It's about expanding. It's about going beyond into the vast world of travel and experience, into the vast world of adventure and really living at a full, soul-nourishing life is really, really what it comes down to with this. And so, what are we feeling? What are we really feeling? Gemini is thinking. Sagittarius is feeling. Sagittarius just knows it. Doesn't have to overthink about it. Doesn't have to come with all the logical details and all this. It just knows. In your heart, in your soul, what is right. It just feels it so strongly, so viscerally. It feels what is really going on. What truths do we really feel as true for us? What truths and what wisdom do we really feel that makes sense for us? And we look at it with awareness. Any spiritual idea that we have, a belief, an ideology, or a piece of conditioning limits. Think about it. We have, conditions upon our lives that our parents teach us. Oh, you can't go to this park. You can't go to this bike riding. You can't be this profession. You have to be diplomatic and think about others before yourself. Follow the rules in this very, very complicated and egoic society. Well, let's take a look at that first of all, because I really, really disagree with that. We should be conditioned into following the dictates of our soul, and only that. Only that. And use logic and ego as a guide to help us with following our soul, with following our intuition. It is both and, after all. So, we look at the piece of limits. All of these pieces, all of these conditions that we've been taught into, that we couldn't stretch ourselves. We couldn't grow ourselves. We couldn't manifest what we really want. We couldn't take risks, be bold, be big in our lives, and really move into the person that we are truly meant to become. Who are we meant to be in this life? Who are we meant to grow and blossom into? Who are we meant to be? We could easily ask ourselves Not in terms of career, not in terms of the career and position in society that society wants us to be, but who we want to be on a soul level. Who we want to be as an authentic individual with whatever that texture is, whatever that flavor is. Who do we want to be? That's the question you can ask yourself. And who do we want to become? How can we step into our highest potential? We're looking at meaning. Looking at meaning here with this. Meaning. Meaning translates to anything that has significance to it. Purpose to it. That's really what we're looking at with, meaning. And, really, really opening up to meaning in that way. Now, this full moon's a blue moon. Blue moons happen every, while. Happen in a while. Maybe every over 2 years. Who knows when blue moons happen. But the point is, they are very, very rare. With the blue moon, it's really, really rare. It happens when there are 2 full moons in a month. 2 full moons in a month. One at the beginning of the month. Remember, on the 1st, we had the Taurus, we had the Scorpio full moon, which was about transformation and releasing the old shadows and the old ways of being to move into more stability, more security, more groundedness, more peace, and more love in our own individual lives. And this full moon happening at the end of the month is looking at our truths, our emotional truths. This full moon happens at the end of the month. The next full moon, next month, is June 29th in Capricorn. And the next new moon is June 14th in Gemini. So tune in for that. Yeah. So with this full moon, we want to do something that we would not typically do. We wouldn't typically do. What is it you do in your daily routines? How you go about your own life, how you go about your city, how you go about your town, how you go about your, whatever. And, what do you typically do? And maybe it's time to change that. Maybe it's time to rearrange that. It's time to look at, a different way of being, a different path to go down. That's really what this full moon invites you to move towards, is a different way, choosing a different way. That might be traveling all the time and escaping, or and then focusing on your immediate surroundings instead, because that sun is like the North Node. It always goes back to that. The month of May really, really shifted us a lot. This was a turbulent month. It grounded us into a state of calm, of peace, of being. It gave us new wisdom, new insight. Gave us a new perspective. Allowed us to look at things in a totally new way. Allowed us to look at our lives and view it so differently, so expansively, so proudly, so wonderfully. That's really the gift of this time. And so meaning looks at us belonging, knowing that we are not alone. Knowing that when we belong to our community, to our family, to our tribe, to our town, to the world, on the internet, all over the whole of the earth, We are connected to something much larger and much greater than we could ever fathom to imagine. We are interconnected to something more intelligent, something more higher level, something more advanced, something with a higher consciousness to it, something with a higher vibration, a higher frequency to it. Belonging. Do we feel a sense of belonging? That's Gemini energy. Gemini energy is feeling connected. Sagittarius just wants to do its own thing and go its own way and be freedom and like, I want to break free, I want to break free. No, Gemini is asking us to connect to the people in our world, to form deep mental, intellectual connections. And that involves seeing the other side and doing all that stuff with Gemini energy. Meaning shifts. It doesn't stay the same. It doesn't stay stagnant. It grows. It evolves. It stretches. We can look at the narratives that we've lived through in our lives, the stories that have defined us, our traditions, our beliefs, our ways of being, how we go about our lives, how we walk on the sidewalk to work, how we treat people, how we achieve our goals, how we eat, how we run. All these narratives that really, really hold true to us today. And all these narratives that we have experienced, that have been passed down for a long period of time in our lives. Passed down for so many generations. How are these narratives impacting us and shaping us? I want to ask you, for those watching this, like, are these narratives holding you back from living a life of expansion and peace and where your soul can travel and learn and explore and do all these things? Are all these narratives holding us back from this? Are all these limiting beliefs holding us back from this? And how can we change them? We don't have to succumb to the previous generations and the roads of belief that they went down with how they lived their lives. We have the power to change our own lives, change our own story, change how we go about, what we're doing and how we go about our lives. With the narratives, that have been, passed down. We have the power to, really, really change these things, alter these things around. We are empowered individuals. I strongly believe that we are empowered to co-create our own lives with spirit. With spirit, our intuition as our partner. And we have the power to rewrite a new story and change our story. We have the right to change our story, create a new story, do all of those things with us in our very, very bones and our very, very being. We have the power. We don't have to succumb to these narratives. Meaning shapes what we do in our lives. That's for certain. A story doesn't define us. It's separate. It's a separate piece of our egos, of who we really are. But really, when it comes down to it, we are the creators and the co-creators of our own story. We as sovereign individuals co-create our own story. We create our own reality. We make our own story. We map out our own plans. We live out the life that is true for us with our actions, with our words, how we treat one another, how we go about in the world, how we do all these things. We are the creators, and we must not be disempowered from understanding and knowing that we create our own narrative. We're looking at all that we are living in looking at, asking ourselves a very, very deep, profound question. Did we choose this for ourselves? Did we truly choose this life for ourselves? Did we truly make the way for this? Did we truly choose our circumstances? We had the freedom to determine which circumstances we were in, or were we forced to be with this house with these siblings, to be in that neighborhood with all the noise and all the kids running all about? What world are we living in? And are we choosing it consciously? Are we actively deciding on how we're going to do this? How we're going to live out our lives? It's about being someone with creative and spiritual power, with a lot of co-creative, wonderful power in their bones and in their being. Being someone with that power. Being with someone with that power, and being someone, because you have so much power. So much wonderful power to create the reality that is in alignment with your soul wants. You have the power, and you're worthy of creating that reality for yourself. Your story doesn't define you. Your actions, your words, your beliefs, your everything defines you. Who you are as a sovereign being in terms of your character, in terms of your very beingness, in terms of your beliefs and feelings. That is what defines you, not the burden of the narrative that you have gone through in your life, that the universe has put in your path for certain reasons to help you grow and evolve. But were those circumstances really true for you on an authentic level? Because they may not always be that way. And so it's about looking at how your story doesn't entirely define who you are. Your identity, the narratives, what is revealed that looks at what is below the surface of our own individuality and actions. What is below the surface? What is, really, really, lurking below the surface of, of really, what we do as individuals? What is below the surface? What is at the core of what we believe, of what we want, of what we desire for our lives, of what, of our own sovereign sense of self, our own identities, our own actions, and our own drives and decisions for taking action on those actions, making them our reality. Thoughts are just abstract. The actions that we take in response to those thoughts, that is what reality is. We create our own reality. And we also live in this 3D reality. It's both and. Both and, not either or. That's the truth of it. If you should have the means to travel, which most of you watching this probably won't do this, but this is just an invitation to travel. Either, well, if you have the means, go on a plane, travel somewhere abroad, travel somewhere in your country, whatever. But travel doesn't have to be just a physical thing, a physical, way of exploration, and all that. It can be a mental thing. It can be a philosophical thing. It can be a spiritual thing. We are traveling all over the world. in our own way. Traveling is getting out of your comfort zone, seeing new cultures, seeing new ways of life, being humble and curious to explore new ways of life beyond our own little, coffin of what we know intellectually, what we're already very, very familiar with. That's what travel is. It's about trying something new. This is the time, if you want to plant those new seeds. Well, it's a full moon, not a new moon. But I'm trying something new. Doing something truly new and changing. And getting out of your stuck and stagnant comfort zone. Your own life, your own backyard, your own house, your own community, your own this. You already know, you're already knowledgeable about, and go beyond that. Expand, learn, grow in your own way that feels true for you. Any outdated belief that you have that is holding you back, I do not have the tools to be able to be a creator on YouTube. I am not worthy of God's love. I'm too old to start this career or to go to college or to do this. People are out for themselves and not compassionate toward others. See, all these beliefs, all of these beliefs that we have, these outdated beliefs, we need to let them go. What beliefs truly hold you back from healthy and fulfilled lives? What beliefs hold you back from living a life of expansion, growth, optimism, love, beauty, and wonder? What beliefs hold you back from living that great life, from living that soul-centered life of peace and happiness? We need to be very, very aware of the tendency to be very, very dogmatic. This whole dogma thing with thinking that you know more than others. That is not wisdom. True wisdom is not thinking that you know all about anything, but being always humble, being curious to expand your mind and learn and grow. Not being so fixed in your beliefs and preaching from a high place of thinking that you know all, from a prideful, egoic place. Now it is time to let this go, where you can focus on the small things in your life, the everyday, the books on your shelf, the thing you can read, really, all of that kind of thing. Focusing on those little aspects of your life is what it really, really comes down to. Small, everyday aspects of what is really going on in your own life, your own very beingness, in your own experience. Focusing and fixating on those intellectual aspects of what's going on in your life. The books on your shelf, the people that you can interact with, all that. If I'm contradicting myself, know this. Remember, both and, not either or. But the point here is expansion. Expansion through the small and all that. But expansion is really what the point is here. What soul contracts have you achieved? Have you committed to? And what soul contracts have expired in your life? You're like, I'm done with this. I've been through the ringer. I've been through all these bad relationships and all these bad breakups and divorces and, work situations and all these experiences in my life of all these losing my family member or losing physical possessions, all these very, very difficult stuff. What soul contracts, ways of being that you have lived, you're like, I'm done. I am done living this way. I deserve to live a better life. What is your soul screaming at you saying, I'm done, I'm done? Now time to end what you need to end. Illuminate, because this full moon will illuminate what you need to look at and end it for the better. So it's about drawing all these truths to the center stage and all these emotional truths with all of our experiences that haven't served us, all these experiences that have not worked out for us in our lives. And it's time to finally just throw it away. What experiences you're like, I'm done. This no longer resonates with me anymore. I just want to throw it out. It doesn't work for me anymore in my life. Like, completed, done, finished, finito. What feels heavy to you? What beliefs feel heavy to you? But that's what I really want to seriously ask you here is, what are those, beliefs that really, really feel that sense of heaviness going on here? What veils? What veils in your life need to be lifted in order to achieve more wholeness in this lifetime. And before I start using all these spiritual words, let's define what these words actually mean. What will make you feel complete to where you can let it go? So complete that you can let it go. That's what wholeness is, and that's the point that I want to bring up with this. So the heavy beliefs that we're holding on to that make us not feel so whole, not make us so grounded. What veils need to be lifted in order to achieve this? Now Uranus is conjunct the Sun and opposite the Moon. So Uranus is the planet of the revolutionary. It's the planet of revolution and change. It's the planet that shakes things up. Shakes up the structures. Shakes up the system that doesn't work. It is like a human hand touching a bug and throwing that bug out into the open. It's overwhelming. It's scary. It's too much. And it forces you to do what you need as opposed to you want. To do what you want. It forces you to change in order because Uranus really, really cares so deeply. If it was a person, it was a being, it cares. But Uranus, the intention behind Uranus is to shake up what is not working in your life. So that anything that is no longer in alignment with what your soul needs to develop into and grow into this lifetime falls away, where the focus is what you need to know, what's actually stable, what's actually sustainable for you on a long-term level, in the long-term state of things, what actually works, what actually has foundations to it, what cannot be destroyed. That building is on rocky foundations. Uranus is going to come in and destroy it. But if that building is so stable, so centered, Uranus, even with its power, even with its might, will not destroy it. It will not. And what is meant to be released in your life was truly never meant for you in the first place. It was never for your highest good in the first place. It was always just something that never worked. And you knew this on a deep level. I question you if you listened. Because there's probably this sense inside of you like, this is not right for me. Yet you went along with it because of the ego, because of the conditions, because of the logic. And you went along with this plan, with this way of being, with this job, with this relationship, with this whatever. Because you felt obligated. You felt like a duty. You felt like it made sense, like all the pieces came together logically. But it didn't feel right. So, this full moon is illuminating what absolutely must go away from your life now. Flow with the universe. Be in the flow of the universe. Be open to the flow, what the universe has to give you in your life. The universe is working with you and for you in your life. It's creating people, situations, relationships, jobs, or whatever, at the right time, at the right place, for synchronicities that help you to grow. That just makes sense for you, that you were meant to be in those situations, be in those places. And so, what this is all about is, being open to this flow. Being in the flow means not be so rigid to your plans, to your ideas, to your beliefs, to your physical possessions, to your whatever in the logical material world. Transcending this and being flexible to change. Uranus asks you to be flexible and to be willing to flow with the current of what feels right for you in the moment, what feels current, what feels in alignment, what feels right. And so can you be in the flow of all those feelings of what really feels right? That's the question. Let things unfold. And co-create your life. And when you realize that I have only so much power, you only have so much power, but you don't have all the power in the world. You don't have, all that power. When you have power over your own life, over your own choices, and not of anyone else, then that's when you'll feel liberated to live the life according to your own values, according to your own wants, according to your own desires. And when you co-create with Spirit, you take one step towards the gods, they take 10 towards you. When you take a little step to show that you are attentive to Spirit, it will let things unfold. Let things unfold. It will open up all these doors for you that you didn't know would be open before. So, flow. Take opportunities. Do what feels right with those opportunities. Make room for new beginnings. Make room for starting afresh. This is the full moon that's getting rid of all the, the shadows, of all the endings. And it's paving the way for the new moon in Gemini, June 14th. Focus on habits that are for your highest good. What are the, and I want to ask you very, very seriously, what are the habits that you're focused on? You're very, very fixated on, that really, really, work for you. All these healthy habits, walking, eating nutritiously, exercising, or these habits that you do in your life. Are these habits serving you? Or are these habits, are they working out for you? Are they, right for you? Are they really for your highest good? Are they really in alignment with what is for your highest good in your own life? And what kinds of habits are these that you're forming in your life? What kind of habits are you engaging in? Sagittarius is about self-improvement, growth, expansion. So, self-improvement, looking at what doesn't work, and as an act of self-love, you are letting this go and you are becoming a better version of yourself, of who you are, with who you uniquely are, by looking at all these habits and determining what habits are not for your highest good anymore. What habits no longer work for you anymore. What habits do. Keeping the habits that do, discarding the habits that don't, and forming habits that do, and leaving those in the picture. And getting rid of the ones that don't work, putting those out of the picture. So, it's really about getting out of limiting mindsets. Limiting mindsets that hold you back from growth, that hold you back from expansion. Of all these fixed beliefs that you have. Being willing and humble to learn. Everyone has a story. Open up to their perspective. Hear what they have to say. The Gemini type things. And pave a way for a new chapter. That's what you're being called into right here and right now. These changes will lead to something much better later on. It's about trusting that. Having faith in that. The Saturn is sextile the Sun and trine the Moon. Saturn is sextile the Moon in the sign of Sagittarius. Saturn is trine the Moon in the sign of Sagittarius. Saturn at 12 degrees, trine the Moon in Sagittarius at 9 degrees. So, with the Saturn-Moon trine and the Sun-Saturn sextile, the Sun at 9 degrees, Saturn at 12 degrees also. What Saturn wants to add is maturity. Saturn asks you to really, really be mature. How can you be more mature in your expression? And, mature really being developed on a soul level. And so that's what Saturn asks you. Are you fully developed? That's what it says here, according to AI. So excuse me if I'm using that. But, maturity is, how you're being, really, like, are you developed in a soul level? Are you mature on a soul level? Or are you still stuck in old ways of being? In old ways of reacting, of emotions, of old patterns, that you're not emotionally mature. Emotionally. And you can never be the most mature. It's always about maturing, continuing to mature, continuing to move on that path, and giving the energy some structure. Saturn gives structure. Saturn gives foundation. And so it's time to add some structure to your life. Time to consider, what are the structures of your life? And what are the beliefs inside the structure? Creating a structure which is in alignment with your new beliefs. That you're releasing these beliefs and you're forming new beliefs coming up here. There can be conflicts between our responsibilities, what we need to do on a day-to-day level, practical level, to all of the people in our world, of all these things, and our feelings, our own feelings. We really, really feel on a deep soul level. Conflict between these two things comes out really, really strongly. Saturn wants us to show logic, show knowledge of logic and pragmatism. really having a practical, realistic outlook on life. It's focused on commitments that give us stability. Commitments where we are fully driven, fully determined to see them through to completion. And they don't rock and shake. The foundation in the rock does not come out from under the earth, and the Vesuvius volcano just comes up from it and just engulfs the whole town. It is stable. It is secure. It is set. And that's what Saturn was. The moon is more emotional, more intuitive, more about a subjective sense of reality. The moon's a little intuition, tones of intuitive tones of what you feel in the moment. It's instinctual, it's soft, it's feminine. And it comes up against Saturn. Comes up against Saturn, the planet of discipline, the planet of restriction, but also the planet of self-mastery. It's both and. With the moon and Saturn, it's both and. We're not going on either end of the axis, really. We're balancing them out. It's about choosing a compromise and a win-win between what feels right emotionally, what feels truth on an emotional level, and what is logical, what makes sense in the rational, logical mind to act on. If we can balance this out and find that compromise between these two, can really thrive. Mars is also involved. It's making a semi-square. It's quincunx the moon and semi-square the sun. What does this mean? Semi-squares are like Aries to Taurus or Cancer to Leo. For example, there's kind of a tension because, with semi-squares, they're one sign apart from each other. And the two signs apart from each other, one sign apart, they have difficulty in compatibility when it comes to, because they're so different. Because it's almost like when you're in one sign and then you're moving into another, it's almost like you're moving into a whole other world, really. When you're, like for the sun, for example, transitions from one sign to another, and it's really an aspect of kind of like a square, kind of like growth, tension. Look at all of that, and quincunxes deal with some kind of adjustment needs to be made, and that is between the moon, the moon and Mars. But so anyway, Mars increases the voltage. What we find the tendency to get into with Mars, is reacting. Being very mindful not to, react to things super strongly, react to, all these things in very huge ways. Really looking at how are we reacting. Are we reacting? Are we allowing our emotions, our impulses, the parts of us that get set off and get ticked off by anything that annoys us in the outside world, the doors that go up with blood across them, and that knife that just goes in and hurts us? Do we react to these things? Or do we respond? Looking at our passions is also really huge with this. Looking at what we're truly passionate about on a soul level. What we're truly driven to achieve. So with this energy, it's a good idea to stop before reacting. Stop when you're about to react, when you're about to get mad, because it may feel very, very good in the moment, but later it will not bring you the fruits of your labor. It won't bring you fruitful goodness and happiness in your life. So stop. Stop. Right in your tracks. Stop right where you are. You get a reaction, or you get an attack to somebody coming in and attacking you. And think before you respond. Think about what they said. Sit with it. Then, kind of at it from a grounded, stable place of sovereignty, of peace, of awareness, and respond. Bring yourself into a state of calm before responding. It's also a good idea to move our energy during this time. Moving our chi, having the motivation to actually move energy, because Mars is the physical body. We don't have movement and energy, then how can we actually function with achieving our goals? Now we can actually function in our life if we don't move the energy, which is Mars. Mars wants us to get up and move energy. Doesn't want us to sit on our, on the couch and just lays around. It wants us to move. It wants us to be active, be yang, be masculine. Our emotions can help us to transform. We can use our emotions to help us transform on emotional levels and grow in that way. We can really, really let go of the past and open to learning and growth in the present. This is a very, very hard lesson for me to learn in my life, because I tend to dwell on the past. But I'm telling myself with so much compassion, the past is in the past. It's about being open to learning and growth and being a much better version of yourself in the present moment. Because that's all that we have, it's the present moment. Is really what is going on right here, right now with us. Presently. What is going on in our presence. In our present time, in our present state of being. Being open to learning. And really, really, just grow and expand ourselves and become a better version of ourselves with the present, because the present is all we have. We don't have the future, we don't have the past. We can only choose to be better, be wiser, more evolved right here and right now. That's where our power lies. It's about letting authenticity reign supreme. Being truly authentic to who we truly are. Letting go of any outdated beliefs to keep us from that. Letting go of any fears and limitations also that hold us back from taking advantage of new opportunities that come towards us in our own life and growing as sovereign beings. What fears and limitations hold us back from that growth? And how can we release these fears and limitations? It's about releasing what is weighing on us and be open to change. Can we be open to change? Can we be open to moving into the unknown? The Sun was conjunct Uranus back around May 22nd. Sun-Uranus conjunctions want to awaken us and illuminate any stuck and stagnant patterns that we've been engaging in. The Sun is the great illuminator. The Sun is our individuality, our true spark of personality. And, Uranus is, the great awakener. And it wants to look at any stuck and stagnant patterns that we've been engaging in that don't work for us anymore. And it wants we bring that into conscious awareness so that we can let go of these things and move into something new and better. The Moon is perception and wisdom. That really, really goes a long, long way. It's kind of like pepperoncino, how you don't need a lot of it to flavor pizza rustica. It expands us, soul beings in human forms. perceptions really say a lot about us. They drive our actions, they drive our words. I mean, they drive so many things. So it's about becoming more aware. Move beyond the boundaries of our own limiting beliefs. Moving on the boundaries of our own immediate surroundings. If we've been stuck in our lives from growth and learning in our immediate surroundings, it's time to move beyond that. Sagittarius is about truth. Truth. That's what Sagittarius is about. Truth and the freedom to choose your life for yourself. Sagittarius wants to be free, doesn't want to be boxed in, doesn't want to be fenced in. It wants to be free, to have the autonomy to make its own choices in life. Couple aspects during this lunation. Sun sextile Saturn. I'm going to go deeper into this. We can really persevere through realistic and feasible goals. Sun Saturn are great aspects for really persevering, really achieving something with a lot of commitment and responsibility. Saturn asks us to get serious and focus and commit to all those things. And if you're going to do it, give 110%. If you're going to do it, mean it and have integrity doing it. If you're going to say something, do it and deliver on it. Saturn is about what karma have you put in? What have you actually put in your life? That's what is valuable. Saturn says what you put in and the actions that you take and the effort that you put in, that's what matters. That's what Saturn is. So persevere through all of your realistic and feasible goals. And you're going to have very common sense in your life with maturity and loyalty, which can make for more respectful and harmonious surroundings. How can we have maturity and common sense? And how can having common sense in our own lives and maturity in our own lives dictate our actions in the best way? And also, are we being recognized for all of our hard work? Are we being recognized for all the hard efforts that we have done and that we have committed to in our own lives? Or is that just falling by the wayside? Is it just falling away from our lives? And we're not getting the recognition back. Nobody's appreciating all the value that we have to give. It's really what it's about, is allowing others to appreciate that. And then also, the moon is trine Saturn. So with the moon trine Saturn, which I'm going to discuss this a little bit more in depth. The very first thing with the moon trine Saturn is that it's about having emotional strength, resilience, and endurance to get through the rough times, to get through all those difficult things. Like, I was in the hospital from December 28th to January 16th. That was a tough, long period of maybe possibly a little bit over 2 weeks, and that was very long, and I thought that was never going to end, and but I got through with all the shows that I watched on my computer of all those things in my life that I had to occupy myself to help me get through and find meaning and find light and comfort in that very dark time in my life. But knowing that at this time, with whatever you're going through, Moon trine Saturn is giving you a gift wrapped in ribbons. It is giving you the gift of recognizing and bringing up into your own awareness and saying that you have the strength to get through these very difficult things. You have the resilience, you have all the tools to get through your challenges. It's about not being overly rigid and fixed in your views, in your viewpoints. Because Saturn can be very rigid in the structures and the 3D, and all that. So it's about opening up to others, in our lives. Not having so strong boundaries where we're opening up our heart to others, connecting in very, very deep, profound, and emotionally soul-based ways. We're connecting soul to soul level with others. We're connecting in that way. So, we have very, very strong boundaries with this. But we can choose to release these boundaries. Let them go. Open them up, expand them. We can connect on emotional and empathetic levels with others. We really, really connect in this very, very deep way. Because boundaries are great, and they do give us grounding and footing and power. But if we're too rigid, we close our hearts down. We close our hearts from all the love and the energy and the attention of, and the beauty of all that life has to offer. Can we be responsible for our feelings? Can we not react so much? Capricorn says, Saturn says, be responsible for your feelings. If you feel this way, then be responsible for these feelings. Have responsibility in your mind, your, bag. Don't, react. Don't get so emotional. Don't allow your emotions. It's not about, you can feel your emotions, but not allowing you to get carried away with your emotions. But it is about not reacting. Not reacting to all these things, but responding. Being responsible. Being emotionally mature. Feeling your feelings and responding from a place of calm and grounded power. Living from the inside out. Having power means that you are calm and grounded and you're responding from a sovereign place, and that you're not allowing your emotions and other people and other things to take away your power so that you're so emotional and so reactive. This is what it means to be in your power, to be sovereign in your own power. So, being practical about your feelings, which I know that they're very, very different things, but if we can have practicality, and if we can be able to handle these things, able to handle all our feelings at this time, because I think that we're all capable of being able to handle our emotions, because under the full moon, emotions get looked up, things come to light and all that. So, can we be able to look at these things very, very deeply during this time? I think that we can look at our feelings in this way. It's also about, on a more, closer to home level, on a more societal level, like being open to convenient and fast solutions, new solutions. Not being so rigid with what has to be done in this way of how it's always been done. I've always been done this way. Sticking to the old ways and very, very stubborn and set in my ways. No, it's about being open to new modes and new means of doing things. It's about being open and expanding your mind, expanding your, perspective. Again, expansion. And trying new ways of going about your life that make it more efficient, more convenient, better for you, for your highest good. It's also a great time to connect with your wise elders who are not stoic and negative and cold and all this, but wise elders who also know the wisdom of what it means to have fun and not take life so seriously. Because having fun and not taking life so seriously, and being open-minded, being philosophical, being expansive, is also what it means to be wise. A truly wise person doesn't take life so seriously. So open up to the wise elders who are very, very grounded, who have lived out the fun of their lives. They may be more enthusiastic than others. They may be calmer than others, but they've integrated this wisdom of both seriousness and practicality with the fun and the relaxation of life. So, connect with these elders who provide guidance and wisdom to you. Being open to all their years of wisdom, because they have been on this earth for a long time. So open up to their wisdom. to their perspective of life, to what they have to say. And then finally, we can establish a foundation that makes us both down to earth and centered within ourselves. So that we are grounded, so that we can live from that place in order to grow, in order to expand, because Sagittarius is about the expansion, it is about the growth, it is about the adventure. And when we come from a grounded place, we can really, really thrive, we can really, really go far in our own individual lives. That is all that I have to say for the collective on the full moon in Sagittarius. This has been a long hour's worth of information. I'll be back tomorrow for the Cosmic Sky podcast episode on how this full moon is going to be impacting all 12 signs, your sun, moon, and rising sign. So tune in for that episode tomorrow. Thank you for watching this. I hope that you got a lot of value and meaning from this, and if you did, I would encourage you to share this video with someone who might really enjoy it, might find it interesting and worth their time, and also subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss my future updates and future uploads. Because I don't want you to miss anything on this channel, because I post quite prolifically and quite avidly, and so I don't want you to miss any of that. So, I will see you back tomorrow, and until next time, this is part 1, tune in for part 2, and until next time, bye for now.